Let's go to the airport. It was a theme we often heard at our house because my dad was a Naval Flight instructor during World War II. In fact, the day I was born, he was about to get on a plane to teach another naval cadet how to fly the Navy way. Now, he didn't fly a fancy jet like this. This is the Blue Angels jet. And my brother flew this jet, or one like it, a big one, the real one. And he flew with the Blue Angels briefly.
Wow.
Dad flew little tiny airplanes after the war. We had first a Piper Super Cruiser. This was a small airplane that had a seat in the front for the pilot and only room for 2 people in the back seat. Hardly appropriate for a family of 4. Later on, we got a Cessna 172, and we thought we were in hog airplane heaven. It was a wonderful little airplane. We would go to the airport with him, my brother and I, as young boys, and push the doors open on the hangar, and then push the 172 out of the hangar, and then watch my father as he would begin the whole process of flying and preparing the airplane to fly. From this, I received some life lessons. The first life lesson I received from my father, by watching my father fly, was when he did what's called pre-flight inspection of the airplane. He would go around the little 172 and he would feel the leading edges of the wing. He would caress them, okay? It was as if he loved them. He caressed those leading edges of the wing. He checked the ailerons and the other, whatever you call these things back here. I wasn't the pilot. My brother was, my father was, but I wasn't. And then he checked the same leading edge on the front, and then he went and looked at the tires, and he would walk around and he would lift the cowling on the engine to look to see under the, well, we would say he looked under the hood. But I don't know what he looked for. I think he checked the oil or something like that. But when he shut the cowling, then we knew we were ready to fly. And he would say, "Get in, boys! Come on, let's go fly!" And we'd get in, my brother in the front seat to the right, father in the left, me in the back. I'm not the pilot. I'm just the guy riding along. We would fasten our seat belts, and we would taxi down the apron and out into the runway. And it was there that I learned the second lesson about life. The first lesson being pre-flight things. Make sure you're ready to go before you leave. Get things in order. Make sure your equipment is ready to work and that everything is good and strong and going to work properly. Otherwise, you'll crash. The second lesson I learned is at the end of the runway. Now, it seems to me that if you're going to take off an airplane, that you would want to go with the wind, because the wind helps blow you along. But that's not how you take off an airplane. You have to head into the wind. You have to go into the wind in order to get the lift you need in order to get up to where you want to fly. Now, I'm sure all of you have been on an airliner, and you felt that moment when the captain says, "Prepare for takeoff." And so everybody feels it, and the airplane taxis around to the final, heading down the runway, and you feel that surge of the power of the engine lifting you up, and it throws you back in your seat, and it just feels so good. I don't know, it's something about it. And every time it happens to me, I sing, "Here we go, off in the wild blue yonder," and I sing that whole song. My seatmates don't mind. They don't know who I am. The lesson there is that to take off, you have to use all the power you have. When that captain pushes that throttle in, every piston of the engine, every jet power of that engine is put to work so that it gets you off the ground and into the air. And that's what it takes if you're going to start a new project. If you get married, it takes all the energy there is to make that marriage work. If you go get a new profession, it takes all the energy you have and all the strength you have and all the wisdom you have to work hard enough to make it work, to get started, to get acquainted with habits. My oldest son is enrolled as a pharmacy student at Creighton University, but he lives here in Loveland. And he takes all of his lessons down in the basement on his computer, sits at the computer all day and stares at that computer. Hours after hour after hour of lecture after lecture after lecture. He is going into the headwind And it's going to happen for another 2 or 3 years before he gets his doctor of pharmacy. And then he will break through those clouds. And he will get up here. And he will fly. And as you know, when your airplane gets above there, those engines are pulled back. And it's a little quieter. And the airplane doesn't quite shudder so much. And you just enjoy the quiet ride in the sky. But it takes a lot to get started. Well, the next lesson in life that I learned by watching my father fly was that once you get up in the air, you have to watch your map and your compass. Now, I'm not talking about this airplane because this has all kinds of sophisticated equipment in it. I'm talking about Dad's 172. It had an altimeter, a compass, and a couple of other little things that bounced back and forth. I have no idea what they were. But I do know this. He had his map. And he had his map and he would have it on his knee. But he carried it and he put it on his knee like that. And he had a line drawn from Julesburg, Colorado, to Council Bluffs, Iowa, or to Norfolk, Nebraska, the two places we usually flew back and forth from. And there was a line drawn on that map, and he would watch that map, and he would look out the window, and I would see him looking out the window, and he was going like this, and looking like this out the window, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, are we lost? But he looked down at that map, and he looked out the window, and he looked down that map, and he looked out the window, and he looked down that map, and he looked out the window, because he didn't want to get off course. He was checking the roads and the rivers and the bridges and the towns that were along the path. And as long as he could see the right ones in the right order, he knew we were on the right path along with that compass. Do you know what the pilots call that? They call that dead reckoning. You don't reckon right, you're dead. So Dad did his dead reckoning flying back in those days. The lesson? Keep your eye on that map and your eye on that compass. Your map is your plan for your life. It's your destiny. It's why God has placed you here. It's where you're going. It's what you should be doing. It's the gifts that God has given you. That's your map. It takes you to your destiny. Not just your destination. And keep your eye on that compass. The compass is your values. The non-negotiables in your life. If you're offered a chance to steal some money from the company, you don't take it. If you're offered an opportunity to have an affair with someone of your mate, you don't take it. If you have an opportunity to tell a lie about something to get ahead, you don't do that. Because your compass is your values, and it will help you in your journey through life. Another lesson I learned from my father is that when you're flying, you will almost always encounter turbulence. I was flying from Omaha to Denver on Friday, United Airlines. Beautiful, smooth, above the clouds ride all the way. The sun shone all the way. It was a beautiful flight. But then they said, buckle your seatbelts, folks. We're about to land in Denver. And as we came down, what did we encounter? And turbulence. One year, my brother and I flew a very important medical doctor from Norfolk, Nebraska to Omaha, Nebraska in the little 172. My brother sat in the left seat, the doctor sat in the right seat, I sat in the back seat. And as we flew, the ceiling kept getting lower and lower, and the turbulence kept getting greater and greater to us. And as we flew, pretty soon my brother said, we're going back. It's too dangerous. And we flew back to Norfolk and we landed the plane. And we got in the car and we drove the doctor to Omaha. The turbulence, you're going to encounter turbulence on your journey. It's called adversity. And what is your ability to fight that? Adversity. How difficult is it for you to overcome adversity in your life? All of us have it. We went around the room here today. We can each share the adversities and challenges that we've had to face. Not that we've chosen, not that we wanted to do, but that we had to do because we are who we are, where we are, experiencing what we are experiencing. Turbulence will always come. I know it with my father. I saw it many times. In fact, we even had an emergency landing once, where we had to land in somebody's oat field near David City, Nebraska. Turbulence comes, but it's almost always tolerable. So those are the lessons I learned from my father about flying. There's a young pilot by the name of John Gillespie McGee Jr. He's the son of Anglican missionaries in Singapore back in 1941. This 19-year-old Spitfire pilot, a member of the Royal Canadian Air Force, wrote this poem. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter's silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence, hovering there. I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the windswept heights with easy grace where never lark or even eagle flew. And while, with silent lifting mind, I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, I reached out my hand and touched the face of God. Do you want to do that? I want to do that. You want to reach out and touch the unseen face of God? You want to arrive at your destiny? So do I. So take the lessons I learned from watching my father fly. Get ready to go. Make sure everything is right before you take off. Take off into the wind. Give it all you've got. Follow your map and your compass. Keep your eye on your values and your destiny. And understand that all the turbulence that you will meet is tolerable and survivable. And you too shall fly. Thank you.